Have you ever looked at someone else's life and quietly wondered, why does everything seem easier for them? Why does their world look brighter, happier, more beautiful than yours? Maybe you've scrolled through someone's perfect photos late at night, stared at another person's success, their family, their home, their happiness, and felt a small ache deep inside your heart. An ache that whispers, maybe my life is missing something. The truth is, most people spend their entire lives chasing what I call golden windows, beautiful illusions glowing in the distance. The dream job, the perfect relationship, the bigger house, the better life that always seems to belong to somebody else. And while they keep running toward those distant lights, they slowly stop seeing the beauty already surrounding them. Welcome back to Lessons for Life Tales, the channel where stories are more than stories. They are mirrors. Mirrors that reveal the quiet truths we often hide from ourselves. Today's story may seem simple at first. Just a young boy, a house on a distant hill, and windows that appear to shine like gold beneath the morning sun. But hidden inside this story is a lesson so powerful, so painfully human, that it could completely change the way you see your own life. Because sometimes the things we envy most are not truly better at all. Sometimes distance creates illusion. Sometimes longing paints ordinary things in golden light. And sometimes the happiness we desperately search for far away has been sitting quietly beside us all along. So before you rush to the next video or continue scrolling through another distracted day, I invite you to stay here for a few moments. Listen closely. And as this story unfolds, ask yourself one honest question. Have you been chasing someone else's golden windows while ignoring the gold already shining in your own life? There once was a young boy who lived on a small farm at the edge of a quiet countryside village. His life was simple. Painfully simple, at least in his eyes. The farmhouse where he lived was old, with faded paint peeling from the wooden walls and a roof that creaked loudly every time the wind blew at night. His parents worked long hours in the fields, from sunrise until darkness covered the land. Their hands were rough from labor, their clothes worn thin from years of hard work. They were not poor enough to starve, but they were far from comfortable. Every meal was modest, every day felt the same. And to the boy, there was nothing special about any of it. But every morning before the chores began, the boy had a ritual he never missed. He would quietly climb the small grassy hill behind the farmhouse and sit alone on an old rock overlooking the valley below. From there, far beyond the fields and trees, stood a house on a distant hill, and every single morning, as the sunlight rose over the horizon, its windows would burst into glowing golden light. The sight captured the boy's heart in a way he could never explain. Those windows didn't just look beautiful to him, they looked magical. Like something from another world. He would stare at them for long stretches of time, imagining the kind of life lived inside that house. In his mind, the people there never struggled. They probably laughed more, ate better food, wore beautiful clothes without holes or patches. Maybe the parents inside that house never argued about money or worried about tomorrow. Maybe happiness came easily to them. Meanwhile, when the boy looked back at his own home, all he saw was exhaustion, routine, and ordinary life. The contrast slowly poisoned his heart with quiet dissatisfaction. Day after day, the glowing windows became more than just glass reflecting sunlight. They became a symbol of everything he believed he lacked. And deep inside, a dangerous thought began to grow stronger and stronger. One day, he whispered to himself, "I'm going to live in a house like that." One evening, as the golden light faded from the distant windows and darkness settled over the quiet farm, the boy made a decision that would change him forever. He could no longer sit on that hill wondering what life looked like inside the beautiful house. He needed to see it with his own eyes. That night, while the wind whispered softly against the old farmhouse walls, he lay awake staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. The image of those glowing windows burned inside his mind like a promise. And before dawn had fully arrived, the boy quietly slipped out of bed. The house was silent. His parents were still asleep, exhausted from another long day of work. He grabbed a small piece of bread, a bottle of water, and stepped outside into the cold morning air. The grass beneath his feet was soaked with dew, and a pale gray mist floated above the fields. For a brief moment, he turned back toward his home. The farmhouse looked dull and lifeless in the early morning shadows. But far away on the distant hill, the golden windows were already beginning to shine again. His heart raced. Without another thought, he started walking. At first, the journey felt exciting. Every step carried him closer to the life he had dreamed about for so long. He crossed wooden fences, followed dusty roads, and climbed over uneven hills as the morning sun slowly rose higher in the sky. Birds sang in the distance. Warm wind brushed against his face. And all the while, the golden windows seemed to call out to him like treasure waiting to be claimed. But as the hours passed, the walk became harder. His legs grew heavy. Sweat rolled down his face beneath the growing heat of the afternoon sun. The road stretched endlessly before him. Sometimes the house seemed close enough to touch, and then suddenly far away again beyond another hill. Yet he kept moving forward. Because in his heart, he believed something extraordinary was waiting for him there. How beautiful must that life be up close, he whispered to himself again and again. And without realizing it, the boy was doing what so many people spend their entire lives doing, sacrificing peace, comfort, and joy in pursuit of an illusion that always seems to exist somewhere else. At last, after hours of walking beneath the burning sun, the boy reached the top of the distant hill. His breathing was heavy. His legs ached with exhaustion. But none of that mattered anymore, because finally he was standing in front of the house with the golden windows. His heart pounded with anticipation as he slowly lifted his eyes toward the shining glass he had dreamed about for so many years. But the moment he looked closely, something inside him collapsed. The windows were not golden at all. There was no glowing treasure, no magical light, no dazzling beauty beyond imagination. Just ordinary glass reflecting the fading afternoon sun. The boy blinked in confusion, convinced he must have made a mistake. He rubbed his tired eyes and stepped closer. Then closer again. But nothing changed. The windows remained plain and colorless, exactly like the ones in his own old farmhouse back home. For a long moment, he simply stood there frozen in silence. Everything he had imagined, every dream, every fantasy, every belief about the perfect life waiting behind those windows began falling apart inside him. His chest felt heavy with disappointment. Embarrassment crept into his face. He suddenly felt foolish for walking so far, for believing so deeply in something that now looked painfully ordinary. This can't be the place, he whispered quietly to himself. But before he could turn away, the front door slowly opened. An elderly woman stepped outside with gentle eyes and a warm smile on her face. There was nothing rich or glamorous about her. She wore simple clothes, and her hands carried the quiet signs of a life filled with work and time. Yet there was kindness in her presence that immediately softened the air around him. "You look exhausted, child," she said softly. "Have you come from far away?" The boy hesitated before nodding. "I came to see the house with the golden windows," he admitted quietly. The old woman chuckled gently, almost sadly. "Golden windows?" she repeated. "Oh no, child, our windows are no different from anyone else's." She invited him inside for water and rest. As the boy stepped through the doorway, his heart sank even deeper. The house was ordinary. The furniture was simple. The rooms were small and quiet. There were no treasures, no perfect life. And strangely, it felt familiar, almost like home. In that moment, the boy began to realize a painful truth. The magic he had spent so long chasing had never existed in the house itself. It had existed only inside his imagination. The boy thanked the elderly woman for her kindness and quietly stepped back outside. But the excitement that had carried him across miles of fields and dusty roads was gone now. In its place was a heavy silence he could feel deep inside his chest. His shoulders drooped as he slowly began the long walk home. The road no longer felt magical. The hills no longer looked beautiful. Even the warm afternoon sunlight seemed duller now. Every step carried the weight of disappointment. He had traveled so far, chasing a dream, only to discover that the dream had never been real. The golden windows were nothing more than ordinary glass. And for the first time, the boy began questioning everything he had believed. Maybe there is no perfect life, he thought quietly. Maybe happiness was never waiting for me out here. As he climbed the hill just beyond the woman's house, he stopped to catch his breath. The wind moved softly through the grass around him, and almost without thinking, he turned around to look back toward the distant valley where his own farm stood. The moment his eyes found it, he froze completely. Far away beneath the golden light of the late afternoon sun stood his little farmhouse, and its windows were glowing. They shined with the exact same golden light he had spent years admiring from afar. The same warmth, the same beauty, the same impossible glow. For a long moment, the boy could not move. His heart seemed to stop inside his chest as realization slowly washed over him. "That's my house," he whispered breathlessly. "Those are my windows." Suddenly, everything became clear. The magic had never belonged to the distant house at all. The light was never inside the windows. It was in the way he had been looking at them. Distance had turned ordinary glass into something extraordinary. And now, from this new perspective, his own home looked just as beautiful, maybe even more beautiful. Because inside that small farmhouse lived the people who loved him. Inside those walls were laughter, warmth, safety, memories, and the quiet moments that had shaped his entire life. The house he once called boring had protected him through every storm. It had fed him, comforted him, and given him a place to belong. Tears quietly filled the boy's eyes as a truth deeper than words settled into his heart. The golden windows were mine all along. The boy's discovery on that hill is not just a story about a farmhouse and sunlight. It is a mirror reflecting the quiet struggle millions of people carry every single day. Because even now, in our modern world, people are still chasing golden windows. Only today, those windows appear on phone screens, behind luxury cars, inside perfect homes, expensive vacations, flawless relationships, and carefully edited lives presented to the world like shining trophies. Every day, people scroll through endless highlight reels, comparing their ordinary moments to someone else's carefully selected perfection. And slowly, without realizing it, comparison begins poisoning the heart. A person can have food on the table, loving parents, healthy children, loyal friends, and peaceful nights, yet still feel empty because they are constantly staring at someone else's life. That is the dangerous trap of comparison. It blinds us to our own blessings. The grass only looks greener from far away, but distance hides reality. Every person you envy is carrying struggles you cannot see. Every smiling face hides fears, disappointments, loneliness, or pain that never appears in photographs. Yet people continue sacrificing their peace, chasing the illusion that happiness exists somewhere else. A bigger house, more money, higher status, more attention, more success, always more. And the tragedy is that a restless heart can never feel rich, no matter how much it owns. Comparison creates emotional poverty. It convinces people that what they already have is not enough. A healthy body becomes ordinary until sickness arrives. Family becomes unimportant until someone is gone. Quiet mornings become meaningless until life becomes chaotic. The simple blessings people once ignored suddenly become priceless the moment they disappear. But by then, many realize they spent years overlooking the gold already surrounding them. Just like the boy, many people stand inside lives filled with love, safety, memories, and opportunities, yet still believe happiness is waiting somewhere far away. They chase distant lights while their own windows quietly shine behind them unnoticed. And perhaps the saddest part of all is this: the more people compare their lives to others, the more impossible it becomes to feel gratitude for the life they already have. But the story of the golden windows does not end in sadness. It ends in awakening. Because the moment the boy turned around and truly saw his own home for the first time, something inside him changed forever. And perhaps that is what gratitude really is. Gratitude is turning around and finally seeing what was already there all along. It is realizing that the life you once called ordinary may actually be filled with quiet miracles you stopped noticing. The same home that once looked small suddenly feels warm. The same dinner table becomes meaningful. The same familiar faces become priceless. Nothing around the boy had changed that afternoon. His house was still the same old farmhouse with worn walls and simple windows. But his eyes had changed. And sometimes, that changes everything. Gratitude has the power to transform ordinary moments into something sacred. A peaceful morning, a phone call from your parents, laughter around the dinner table, the ability to walk, breathe, sleep peacefully, and wake up to another day. These things often seem small, until life reminds us how precious they truly are. Gratitude turns what we have into enough, and a thankful heart sees gold where others see nothing. The world teaches people to constantly chase more. More success, more recognition, more possessions. But contentment does not come from having everything. It comes from finally appreciating what is already in your hands. Because a person who cannot feel grateful for a little will never feel satisfied with a lot. Inner peace begins the moment comparison ends and gratitude begins. Maybe your life is not perfect. Maybe your home is not luxurious. Maybe your journey has been difficult. But even now, there are still blessings surrounding you that someone else would pray for. A mother's voice, a father's advice, a quiet bed to sleep in, food on the table, a healthy body, a friend who truly cares. These are the golden windows people often fail to see until they are gone. So tonight, before you fall asleep, take a moment to turn around emotionally and look at your own life differently. Because perhaps the happiness you've been searching for in distant places has been sitting quietly beside you this entire time. And maybe that is the lesson we all need to remember before life moves too fast again. So many people spend their entire lives chasing happiness somewhere far away. They believe joy is waiting in another city, another relationship, another paycheck, another version of themselves. They keep running toward distant lights, convinced that fulfillment exists just beyond the next hill. But while they are busy searching everywhere else, they often fail to notice the golden windows already shining quietly inside their own lives. The love they already have. The memories they already made. The people who still care for them. The peaceful moments they once called ordinary. The boy in this story traveled far away, only to discover that the beauty he admired had been reflected back from his own heart all along. And maybe many of us are doing the exact same thing without realizing it. Maybe the life you've been wishing for contains pieces of the life you already have right now. Happiness is not always something waiting in the future. Sometimes it is hidden inside the present moment, waiting for us to finally slow down long enough to see it. So tonight, I want you to ask yourself one honest question. What blessing in your life have you been overlooking? Is it your family, your health, your home, a friend who never gave up on you? Or simply another chance to wake up tomorrow morning? Take a moment and share your answer in the comments below. Your words may become the reminder someone else desperately needs today. And if this story touched your heart in any way, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to Lessons for Life Tales for more stories that inspire, heal, and speak directly to the soul. Your support truly means more than you know, and we're deeply grateful that you chose to spend these moments with us today. Until next time, slow down, look around, and remember this beautiful truth. The golden windows of your life may already be shining. You simply have to turn around and see them.